We all experience moments of forgetfulness, a name that eludes us, a misplaced set of keys. This is part of the human tapestry, the ebb and flow of daily life. But when the fading of memory begins to cast a longer shadow, when it starts to unravel the threads of our daily existence, then it calls for a gentle, observant awareness. It is not the occasional lapse we speak of, but a more persistent clouding, where recent conversations evaporate like morning mist, or significant events, once vivid, become blurry and indistinct. Imagine the frustration, the quiet anxiety that can build when the familiar landscape of one's own past starts to feel like an unreadable map. This is more than just misplacing an item. It is the unsettling feeling of losing pieces of oneself, of experiences that shape who we are. This kind of memory loss can touch the core of our interactions. Important dates, commitments made with heartfelt sincerity may slip away, not from a lack of care, but from a genuine inability to retain them. This can lead to misunderstandings, to feelings of being let down, both for the person experiencing the change and for those around them. It is a subtle shift, at first perhaps dismissed as stress or tiredness, but its persistence is what signals a deeper current. The knowledge that was once readily accessible, the skills honed over years, might require greater effort to summon. This isn't about a lack of intelligence or effort. It is as if the inner librarian is having trouble locating the books, even the ones that were read just yesterday. This gentle erosion of recent memory, while leaving distant recollections perhaps still intact, is a significant signpost. It asks us to pause, to observe with compassion, and to understand that the mind, in its incredible complexity, is signaling a change in its delicate balance. Consider the simple act of recalling the day's events. For many, this is an automatic process, a quiet review before sleep. But when this review becomes fragmented, when large portions of the day seem to be missing, or when recalling what was had for breakfast becomes a genuine struggle, it's a different matter. This is not the busyness of a mind occupied with many things, but a true difficulty in forming and retrieving new memories. The stories that bind us, the shared experiences that create connection, rely on this ability. When this falters, a sense of isolation can begin to creep in, a feeling of being adrift from the shared current of life. It's crucial to approach this with profound empathy, recognizing the vulnerability it creates. This is not a choice, nor a failing of character. It is a change in the very mechanism of how we record and revisit our lives. A gentle whisper from within that asks for our attention and our most tender understanding, a call to look closer at the subtle shifts in the flow of consciousness. Plans unravel. The ability to plan, to strategize, to solve problems, these are hallmarks of a mind that is functioning with clarity and purpose. It is like being the captain of a ship, charting a course, anticipating the weather, and navigating with skill. But what happens when the charts become difficult to read, when the sequence of steps in a familiar recipe feels like an intricate puzzle, or when managing finances, once a routine task, becomes a source of confusion and distress? This difficulty in executive function, in organizing thoughts and actions towards a goal, is another subtle yet profound sign. It's not about making an occasional error in judgment, but a consistent struggle with tasks that require sequential thinking or abstract reasoning. Imagine trying to follow a set of instructions, perhaps for assembling a new piece of furniture or learning a new process at work, where once there was a clear path from one step to the next, now there might be hesitation, a feeling of being overwhelmed by the complexity or an inability to hold the entire sequence in mind. This can manifest in everyday situations, struggling to make a shopping list and then follow it in the store, difficulty in managing appointments, or finding it hard to make decisions that were once straightforward. The mind, which once moved with fluid grace through these processes, now encounters friction, a kind of inner resistance that makes these cognitive tasks taxing and often frustrating. This isn't a reflection of unwillingness, but a genuine challenge in the brain's ability to process and organize information effectively. This can extend to problem solving in daily life. When unexpected issues arise, the ability to think on one's feet, to weigh options, and to come to a sensible solution can become impaired. Instead of a flexible response, there might be a tendency to become flustered, to repeat ineffective strategies, or to rely heavily on others for guidance in situations that were previously handled independently. Consider the task of paying bills or managing a budget. This requires not only mathematical understanding but also planning and foresight. When these abilities diminish, it can lead to practical difficulties, creating a ripple effect that impacts independence and well-being. It's a quiet struggle, often hidden, as the individual may try to compensate or mask the difficulties they are experiencing. Recognizing this shift from confident planning to hesitant uncertainty is key. It speaks to a change in the cognitive architecture, a subtle alteration in how the mind engages with tasks that demand order, foresight, and logical progression, calling for patience and support. Tasks stumble. There is a comfort in familiar routines. In tasks performed so often, they become second nature. Driving a well-known route, preparing a favorite meal, playing a game with understood rules. These actions are woven into the fabric of our daily competence and independence. When these familiar tasks begin to present unexpected challenges, it can be a disorienting and concerning experience. This is not about learning something new and finding it difficult. It is about struggling with skills and activities that have been part of one's life for years, sometimes decades. The smooth, almost unconscious flow of action becomes interrupted, hesitant, as if the internal script for these routines has become corrupted or misplaced. Think about preparing a simple meal, the sequence of chopping vegetables, managing cooking times, combining ingredients. These steps, once automatic, might now require intense concentration, or steps might be forgotten or done out of order. Similarly, operating familiar household appliances, which once required no thought, could suddenly seem complex. The confidence that comes from mastery over one's daily environment can be eroded by these small but significant stumbles. It is as if the muscle memory for these activities, which resides not just in the body but deeply in the mind's procedural pathways, is becoming less reliable. This can be deeply frustrating for the individual, leading to a reluctance to engage in these activities, not out of laziness, but out of a fear of making mistakes or a sense of inadequacy. This difficulty can also manifest in hobbies or work-related tasks that were previously sources of enjoyment and accomplishment. A lifelong knitter might find patterns confusing, an avid card player might struggle to follow the rules of the game, or a craftsman might find it hard to complete projects that were once easy. These are not just losses of skill, but losses of identity and engagement. The internal sense of capability is shaken when the hands and mind no longer coordinate with the same effortless grace. It's important to observe these changes with sensitivity. Are they isolated incidents, or do they form a pattern of increasing difficulty with the familiar? This gentle observation, free of judgment, can help in understanding that the mind's well-trodden paths are becoming harder to navigate, signaling a need for awareness and compassionate inquiry into these unfolding changes. Time warps. Our understanding of time and place is fundamental to our orientation in the world. We inherently know what season it is, roughly what time of day it is, without looking at a clock, and where we are in relation to our home or familiar landmarks. This internal compass provides a sense of stability and grounding. When this sense begins to fray, when confusion about time or place becomes more frequent, it is a significant indicator that something within the mind's navigational system is amiss. It's not just about forgetting an appointment date, but a more profound disorientation, such as losing track of the passage of seasons, or feeling unsure about one's current location, even in familiar surroundings. Imagine waking up and, for more than a fleeting moment, being unsure of what day of the week it is, or even what month or year, or finding oneself in a familiar part of town, perhaps on the way to a local shop, and suddenly feeling lost, as if the mental map of the area has been temporarily erased. This can be a deeply unsettling experience, creating anxiety and a reluctance to venture out alone. The fluid understanding of past, present, and future can also become jumbled. A person might speak of long-deceased relatives as if they were still alive, or recount events from decades ago as if they happened yesterday, while struggling to recall what happened just hours before. This temporal confusion indicates a disruption in how the brain organizes and processes the timeline of life. This disorientation can also manifest as difficulty understanding how long a period of time has passed. An hour might feel like a few minutes, or a short wait might feel like an eternity. This distortion can impact daily routines, making it hard to judge when to eat, sleep, or attend to other needs. The rhythm of life, so often dictated by the clock and calendar, becomes disharmonized. For those witnessing these changes in a loved one, it requires immense patience and gentle reorientation. It's not a deliberate confusion, but a genuine struggle of the mind to anchor itself in the here and now. Observing these shifts in temporal and spatial awareness, the internal clock and compass becoming less reliable, provides important clues about the changing landscape of the mind, urging a kind and attentive response to this growing sense of being adrift. Vision blurs. Our eyes are windows to the world, but it is the brain that interprets the torrent of visual information they receive, allowing us to perceive depth, identify objects, understand spatial relationships, and navigate our environment. When this intricate process of visual interpretation begins to falter, it's not always an issue with eyesight itself, but can be a sign of changes within the brain's visual processing centers. This can manifest as difficulty reading, not because the letters are unclear, but because the brain struggles to process them. Or it could be a problem with judging distances, making tasks like parking a car or navigating stairs more challenging and potentially hazardous. Consider the act of recognizing faces. While an occasional blank on a name is common, a consistent difficulty in recognizing familiar faces, even those of close family or friends, can be a very distressing sign. Similarly, misinterpreting visual cues, such as mistaking a shadow for an object or failing to perceive an obstacle in one's path, can lead to confusion or accidents. This isn't about failing an eye test. The eyes might be perfectly healthy. Instead, it's about the brain's capacity to make sense of what the eyes are seeing. It might involve struggling to distinguish colors or contrasts, making it hard to pick out an object from a cluttered background, or difficulty following a moving object with one's gaze. These visual spatial challenges can also impact activities that require fine motor coordination guided by sight, such as threading a needle, writing, or using tools. The disconnect between what is seen and how the brain directs the body to respond can be a source of immense frustration. Imagine trying to pour water into a glass but consistently misjudging the distance or the fullness, leading to spills. Or trying to find your way around a slightly unfamiliar building and feeling completely disoriented by the layout, even with visual signposts. These are not failings of attention, but reflect a deeper difficulty in the brain's ability to construct a coherent and accurate three-dimensional understanding of the world from visual input. Recognizing that these visual disturbances may stem from cognitive changes rather than purely optical issues is an important step in understanding the broader picture. Words lost. Language is the vessel of our thoughts, the bridge that connects our inner world with others. The ability to find the right words, to construct coherent sentences, and to understand spoken or written communication is fundamental to our social existence. When this faculty begins to show signs of strain, it can be profoundly isolating. This isn't about the occasional tip of the tongue moment that everyone experiences, but a more persistent and troubling difficulty with words. It might involve struggling to find even common words during a conversation, leading to pauses, substitutions with incorrect or vague terms, or circumlocution, talking around a word without ever quite reaching it. Imagine trying to tell a story or explain an idea, but the words just won't come, or they come out jumbled and unclear. The flow of speech, once effortless, becomes halting and effortful. This can lead to frustration for both the speaker, who feels unable to express themselves, and the listener, who may struggle to understand. It can also manifest in writing, where constructing sentences or finding the appropriate vocabulary becomes a laborious task. The richness and precision of language can diminish, with conversations becoming more simplistic or reliant on gestures and fewer words. This is not a reflection of diminished intelligence, but a sign that the brain's language centers are facing challenges. Beyond word finding, there can also be difficulties in understanding language. Following a complex conversation, especially in a group or with background noise, might become increasingly hard. Instructions that are spoken too quickly or involve multiple steps might be missed or misinterpreted. Even reading comprehension can decline, making it difficult to enjoy books or understand written information. The joy of a witty exchange, the comfort of a deep conversation, or the simple clarity of shared information can all be impacted. When a person starts to withdraw from conversations or seems to misunderstand what is being said more often, it is important to consider that it might not be disinterest or poor hearing, but a genuine struggle with the processing of language itself. This subtle erosion of linguistic ability is a quiet call for patience, for simpler communication, and for a deeper awareness of the internal challenges being faced. Items vanish. We all misplace things from time to time. The car keys, a favorite pen, the television remote. Usually, with a bit of mental retracing, we can recall where we might have left them. However, when misplacing items becomes a frequent occurrence, and particularly when it is coupled with an inability to retrace one's steps to find them, or when items are found in highly unusual or illogical places, it signals a more significant cognitive shift. It is not just the act of misplacing, but the breakdown in the logical process of searching and the memory of one's own recent actions that is a cause for closer observation. Imagine consistently putting everyday objects in completely inappropriate spots. The house keys in the refrigerator, a wallet in the sugar bowl, or important papers in the laundry basket, and having no recollection of doing so. This is beyond simple absent-mindedness. It suggests a disruption in both short-term memory and the executive functions that help us keep track of our actions and possessions. The frustration of constantly searching for lost items can be immense, leading to agitation and sometimes, unfortunately, to suspicion of others if the person cannot understand how things are getting lost or moved. The ability to retrace one's steps mentally. Where was I when I last had it? What was I doing? Relies on a coherent memory of recent activities, and when this is impaired, finding lost objects becomes an almost impossible task.